The film begins with a sweeping shot of an elegant yet elderly man driving his car. Though his years have clearly left their mark, he carries an air of wealth and prestige, as if every action he takes holds purpose. As he drives, he reaches into his wallet and finds a card tucked away. He flips it over to read a line scribbled on the back. "They may assist you." Just below, a phone number is etched. Curiosity gets the best of him, and he dials the number. The scene transitions as he follows directions to a hidden, upscale location, a private clinic of sorts. Here, he's introduced to a mysterious physician, a calm and unnervingly insightful man. Without preamble, the doctor looks directly into his eyes and states, "Your body will soon lose its spirit." Shocked, the man's aristocratic composure falters. "How did you learn of me? What do you know about me?" he demands. The physician replies with a level, unshakable tone. "I know everything, even things you wouldn't believe, and I can help you live beyond the limits of your body." Skeptical yet intrigued, the man challenges him. "How will you save me?" The doctor, seeming unfazed, explains with a measured pace, through a process known only to a select few. "We will transfer your consciousness, your soul, into a new body." He goes on to describe how the process would allow him to continue living, but in a fresh form. With this new body, your soul can continue your legacy. The man, though still doubtful, leans in with curiosity. "Why me? Why did you choose me?" The doctor responds, "We choose only those rare individuals who have the potential to change the world with their influence and power. This opportunity is not granted to those who live frivolous lives." The physician leads him to a glass chamber containing a still, perfectly sculpted body, a man of prime age and vitality. "This is the vessel for your spirit," the doctor explains. Suddenly, the body jerks, as though reacting to some hidden stimulus. Alarmed, the elderly man recoils. "It's alive," he exclaims, but the doctor assures him, "No, it only moves due to an automatic response. It's an artificial body, created without consciousness, just waiting to house a soul." The doctor gives him time to contemplate the decision, cautioning him that he would be severing all ties with his former life. With this weighing heavily on him, the man returns to his grand but lonely home. There, he encounters his estranged daughter, a young woman who harbors deep resentment toward him. Years of neglect and devotion to business had left their relationship cold and fractured, and she shows no interest in him or his success. Heartbroken yet determined, he realizes that he has little to leave behind, except perhaps the hope of a second chance. Soon after, the man's health declines rapidly, and he finds himself in the sterile halls of a hospital. Feeling death's grip tightening, he decides that he cannot afford to delay any longer. He returns to the doctor and accepts the offer. Before the procedure begins, the doctor emphasizes a critical point. You must be free of any metallic objects during the process. The machinery is magnetic, and any metal could cause a fatal malfunction. The elderly man nods, feeling a mix of dread and excitement. The operation begins, and after what feels like an eternity, he awakens in a fresh body, a new face and identity. The doctor, standing over him, says, "Rest. Your new identity is Edward. Your previous life is gone, and from now on, you're only known as Edward." This rebranding of self leaves him feeling both liberated and oddly disoriented. As Edward adjusts, he notices brief, unsettling visions, flickers of unfamiliar faces, places, and memories. The doctor prescribes medication to help manage these visions, which should ease in time as Edward acclimates to his new form. A month passes, and Edward's life settles into an easy rhythm. He makes new friends, immersing himself in the social circles of nightclubs, high-end parties, and exclusive events. However, one evening, he forgets his medication. That night, the visions intensify, sharper and clearer than before. He sees a woman and a young girl standing near a distinctive water tower. He feels a connection to them that he cannot explain, yet he's compelled to understand it. The next day, Edward brings this up with the doctor, who sternly reminds him, "You must take your medicine on time, Edward. Ignoring it could lead to serious consequences." The doctor advises him to rest and relax. But Edward, unable to shake his curiosity, searches for the water tower he saw in his vision. He locates the structure online and decides to see it in person. Before he leaves, Edward visits a gravesite where he had buried a box before his transformation. He unearths it to find an assortment of cards and cash his last link to his former self. Clutching the box tightly, he heads to the location of the water tower. There, he finds a house just as he had seen it in his vision. Driven by a strange compulsion, he knocks on the door, only to find the house seemingly abandoned. He ventures inside, wandering through its dusty rooms until he stumbles upon a framed photograph of himself, or rather, of the body he now inhabits. Stunned, Edward's mind races as he pieces together the truth. This body once belonged to another man, a man with a family. As he stands there in shock, a woman, the one from his vision, enters and, seeing him, gasps. She pulls a gun, ready to defend herself. But when Edward turns around, she lowers it and breaks down in tears, throwing herself into his arms. In that moment, Edward realizes that this woman was the former man's wife and the girl in the vision was their daughter. As they embrace, several men enter the room and forcibly pull Edward away. The doctor's assistant appears and reveals the tragic truth. This man sold his body to us to fund his daughter's medical treatment, but we never told his family. It was the price he paid for their survival. Overwhelmed with guilt, Edward confronts the assistant angrily, decrying their inhumanity. He can barely contain his rage as he leaves, but he doesn't reveal the truth to the woman, unable to shatter her belief that her husband has returned. He soon finds himself acting as a father to the girl, sharing simple moments like picking her up from school and joining her and her mother in outings. The girl adores him, her joy unmistakable, and Edward feels a strange new bond, a warmth he'd never felt in his former life. One evening, determined to uncover the true nature of this soul transfer process, Edward dives into research. He finds that the procedure was originally pioneered by a brilliant yet reclusive scientist who had since disappeared. Further digging reveals a detail that catches his eye. This scientist was known for habitually adjusting his glasses in a specific way, a habit the doctor shares. In that moment, Edward realizes the truth. The doctor had once undergone this same transformation, assuming a new body and identity. Armed with this knowledge, Edward confronts the doctor at his hidden estate. He demands more medication, but the doctor's men intervene, dragging him out. Desperate, Edward tells the woman he must reveal the truth. "I am not who you think I am. I'm not truly your husband," he confesses. The woman is heartbroken and flees, leaving him in despair. With no one left to turn to, Edward seeks out an old friend, hoping to at least secure the safety of the woman and her daughter. Initially, his friend doesn't recognize him, but after Edward shares intimate details known only to them, his friend understands and offers to help. Edward decides to leave town with the woman and her daughter, aiming to start anew, far from the doctor's reach. But the doctor's men catch up with them. As the doctor's men close in, Edward quickly tells his friend, along with the woman and her daughter, to run and hide. Determined to protect them, Edward decides to distract the pursuers, drawing their attention toward himself. While his plan works temporarily, the doctor's men eventually track down the woman and her daughter, capturing them and taking them to the doctor's lab. Later, Edward's friend informs him of their capture, igniting a fiery determination in Edward. Fueled by anger and desperation, he uses his enhanced vision to pinpoint the location of the doctor's lab. He storms toward the doctor's lab, ready to confront the danger head-on. However, the doctor's men overpower Edward and take him prisoner. Inside the lab, they prepare to transfer Edward's soul into yet another body. However, this body is weak and covered in bruises. But Edward anticipates their plan and hides a small metal object in his mouth, disrupting the process. He feigns unconsciousness, waiting for the perfect moment to escape, and then makes his move, rescuing the woman and her daughter. In a final confrontation, he confronts and kills the doctor, destroying the lab in a blaze that leaves no trace of their gruesome enterprise. With the nightmare behind him, Edward gives a significant sum of money to the woman and her daughter, urging them to begin a fresh life elsewhere. He leaves them with a quiet sense of closure and heads to find his estranged daughter. When he finds her, he explains he was a close friend of her father and gives her a letter. In it, he confesses his regrets, expressing his love and sorrow for his failures as a father. She is moved to tears, finally understanding the love her father had for her, however belated. In the final scene, Edward, exhausted from his ordeal and weeks without medication, receives a video on his laptop. The original owner of the body, in his own words, thanks him. "You gave me the life I longed for with my family. Now, live your life to the fullest." He decides to stay with the woman and her daughter, committed to honoring the life he's been given.